Hello, everybody. It's still Eddie and Mike, but we have a new name. It's called Sporting Convos with Eddie and Mike. It's me, Mike, and I'm here with my guy.
Eddie P. We're standing on business, but our conversations are sporting, and we're supporting the sporting conversations. It's Eddie and Mike. You're welcome.
And we have a fun show for you all. We're going to talk about the playoff basketball and show a little love to the Washington Nationals. But before we get into any of that, we have a very special guest, head coach of the Cajon Cowboys, Nick Rogers. And the Cajon Cowboys were led by none other than the Washington Commanders' second overall pick, Jayden Daniels. So y'all sit down, check out this very insightful interview, and come back and we're going to talk about some NBA playoffs. And yeah, it's only the way we can do it here on Sporting Convos with Eddie and Mike. I would like to introduce everyone to the Cajon Cowboys head coach, Nick Rogers. And why is he important? Why is that school important? That is the high school of the Washington Commanders' second overall pick, Jayden Daniels. Good evening, Coach. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Glad to hear from you guys.
And again, thank you for joining us. So I just want to get right to it. Can you tell us about your journey as a coach and how you ended up coaching Jayden Daniels?
Yeah, so so at Cajon High School where Jayden played, I'm a former player, alumni as well, and so our history kind of goes back even further because me and his dad actually played together, graduated together at Cajon High School, and then he went to school also with his mom, she was a year or two younger than us, but again, we all, we're all three of us were Cajon graduates. And then when, he was coming up in the ranks in the youth football, I kind of followed him along and talk, I used to sit in with dad. He would come in and talk to me a little bit about blocking schemes because he was the head coach for his youth team. And I was the offensive line coach at the time at the high school. So we used to kind of sit down and go over stuff. And then when it came time to high school, I'd just gotten promoted to the head coach the year before he arrived. And that's a pretty nice little bump to get him my second year in, to get the second overall pick to come in as my starting quarterback as a freshman.
So you were pretty familiar with this game way before high school, it seems like.
Oh yeah. No, we knew he was special, when he was coming up in the ranks. And again, I always, when I originally saw him and looked at him and watched him play, and his dad was he's a Division I defensive back, and I didn't know how tall he was going to get. That was kind of, and we talked about it even with dad, that when it gets to college, he's probably going to end up being a DB. We're talking when he was in seventh grade. So, and then he comes in as a freshman. He was probably 5'10", which was pretty tall, but still not necessarily Division I quarterback size. So we were just kind of seeing where he got, and he had a growth spurt. Around his junior year, he was like 6'3", and we're like, okay, never mind. The DB is off the table. This kid's going to be a quarterback. So.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Eddie Pickering here, the other half of the show. Thank you again so much for joining us. It's definitely an honor on our end. So talk to me a little bit about, man, you got like a varsity blues thing going on there based on what you already said, but minus all the drama, obviously.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the approach you took with Jayden Daniels as far as like schematically, on the field, but then also off the field, because seems like you kind of knew him growing up and then your relationship with his family. Talk to me, just, expand on that, please.
It's kind of funny, and I look at it now, just going back to the stuff that kind of gets brought up when he moved over to the SEC, and then now talking about him in the NFL. And the thing that always comes up is, he is a slight frame, and he's maybe not having the body built for the type of contact he's going to see in the SEC and the NFL. And that's the same thing when he came in as a freshman. I mean, we had to get a waiver for him to be able to play because he was 100 and maybe 30 pounds. Um, as a freshman starting quarterback, I remember talking to his mom before his first game. She said, "Don't get my baby killed out there." I said, "Hey, he'll be fine." And he goes in the first game as a freshman. He throws for, I think, 260 some yards. I think he has 4 touchdowns as a true freshman. And this is, not the, in today's kind of world in high school sports, they have the holdback deal, and you have these 16-year-old freshmen. This kid was 14 years old, playing against 18-year-old kids and going out there and dominating. And the kid was light years ahead of his time, extremely smart even at that age, and a sponge, and sat there and would learn and listen, and was extremely coachable. Just a great kid. But again, you look at the parallels from now. It's still, every time you talk about him, oh, he's just too small. But again, to be honest, I think he's missed 2 games in 5 years of college football due to an injury he had that couple years down at that COVID year at Arizona. So, but other than that, he continues to play, makes plays. So I'm not worried about the size knock that he gets a lot for being a little slender.
All right. Wow. Okay. So, you mentioned the SEC. I think we all know he started at Arizona State. So, I just wanted, just real quick, based on your relationship, was this something that you and him talked about going to the SEC? Was that like kind of just when he transferred, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to the SEC, or were there other options?
Well, so when he was initially, I found out he was leaving Arizona State. I called him and said, "So where are you looking?" And we kind of talked a little bit about it. And I'd always try to push him a little bit towards UCLA. I just really liked what they were doing over there. This was early on when he was coming out of high school. And that was still in the picture. And so I brought it up to him, and he kind of just said, I think I need a change from the Pac-12. And he started looking at some of these teams out there. I think some of the big ones at that time was LSU and Missouri. And I think even Penn State was in it maybe.
Oh, wow.
But I know it was really Missouri and LSU that they were looking at quite a bit. And when the LSU came through, I said, "Well, there's 2 reasons you go to LSU: to win a national title or win a Heisman." So, that was kind of the road he took, and he was able to complete one of those. And it was a historic season, and extremely proud of him for it.
So,
Awesome. Go ahead,
what
Mike.
sets Jayden apart from other high school quarterbacks you coach? I know you only coached 1 year before he came and had a
Yeah.
few since, but what's the difference that you see from your point of view?
The big thing for me, I think there's a couple things that really, I think, define him. Because again, we've had kids that have had strong arms, and we've had fast, athletic kids, but his above the shoulders is second to none. I mean, the kid, literally, when we would tell him to do something, you'd tell him one time and it was done. You didn't have to worry about it. And it got to a point his senior year where, we're a no huddle system, and we would signal in, and he was signaling me the plays he wanted to run. He was just kind of, it was like a pitcher, checking off the pitch signs from the catcher, and he was just kind of signaling in. I said, "Hey, just go with it." So there was a lot of times the senior year, I remember on the headsets, his dad was always in the booth. He was like, "What play are you running?" I said, "I don't know. He called this one." So, and we just let him roll with it. And he's just, like I said, he's just so head and shoulders above where he should be, intelligence wise, that we just kind of gave him the keys and let him go by the time it was his senior year. And then the other thing I think is his composure. If you ever, I'm sure you guys have seen tons of stuff on him through the last couple of years, especially at LSU when they were
Mhm.
drafting him to Washington. Even in we're talking clutch moments against, a couple years ago against Alabama, where they, hit the 2-point conversion to win it. His facial, his demeanor doesn't change. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He stays the same way the whole way through. So, I think those two things, is just kind of a calm, cool, collected kid that's extremely smart, and then you combine that with a great arm and extreme athleticism. It's a great combination to have.
So, general manager for the Commanders, Adam Peters, he used the phrase that Daniels, he takes the soul out of a defense. And when asked after he was drafted to Washington, Daniels mentioned the 2023 Florida game, where
Mhm.
you can use that as an example of how he takes a soul from a defense. Is there any high school game equivalent where he took a soul out of defense that you can let us all know about?
I think the list of those that didn't would be something. I can kind of pinpoint those because he took a soul out of a lot of teams. I'll be honest, but the one that really there's a couple that stand out to me, and the one was probably in 2017, which is the first time we won the regional championship in like 30 years, and we're playing the game, and he has a game very similar to the Florida game. He throws for, I want to say it was basically 300 and runs for 300. I want to say it was like 297 and 295, and he scores 8 touchdowns, 4 passing, 4 rushing, including a 99-yard touchdown run. And this is in the championship game for our division.
Wow.
And so, flash forward to after the Florida game, I call him up and I'm talking to him after the Florida game. I said, "Oh, you had enough of this?" And he goes, "Well, I did in high school. I want to see if I can do it again in college." So I just wanted to prove myself I could. So that was just kind of it, because it was, very similar, 300 and whatever he did, 360 and 250 or whatever it was he threw and ran for against Florida, something crazy.
Hey, Coach. So you've talked a lot about just his demeanor and the skill set. How do you think that, along with his character, will benefit the Commanders?
So, now it comes down to at the pro game, and again, this is just a high school coach talking, so I don't know a whole lot about it, but the way he manages himself and carries himself, he's not a guy that's going to be out partying all night. He's not going to be doing those things. He's going to be studying. He does not want to be embarrassed out there on the field, and so he's going to sit there and you hear. I'm not going to say other quarterbacks that are in the league, but you hear stories about them not, reading the scouting reports, doing those things. This kid is going to be making sure those things are taken care of, because the last thing he wants to do is be embarrassed. And so he's going to be ultra prepared every week he takes the field. And that's the one thing. He's always going to be prepared. He's always going to be ready, because again, he's going to give the Commanders the best version of himself, which is what you would want as a coach, from your player, your franchise player. So I think, I'm obviously a homer on this one for sure, but I mean, he's the best pick in the draft in terms of quarterbacks go. So that's just my feeling on it.
Okay, Coach, I'm one of those scatterbrain types, so I do apologize for like kind of going back and forth with you, like in terms of timeline, if you will. I'm a little bit of a Marvel guy too. Throw the timeline thing
Yeah.
out there. Anywho, you mentioned playing high school ball with his father, and then again knowing the mom, and trying to do some quick research on you. And you even mentioned it, playing for Cajon yourself, and then I saw where the gentleman that you ended up taking over for was your high school coach. Just give me a quick California high school football feel. I mentioned varsity blues. Like, was there a lot of that going on in San Bernardino? Is that common? Like, I know it's the movies, but just
Yeah, no. So going back to, back in the 90s, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but when we were there, me and his
new
dad.
shape, coach, 80s baby.
Yeah. Well, so, but we were, that team that we had was, it was a really good football team. We were 10-0 our senior year, had things rolling and doing things really well. But again, then we had some off years here and there, and then, back at it, but we were always a competitive program. And then when Jayden came around, that's the one thing I think is different now. And some of it is the landscape of high school football, especially in Southern California, with the kids moving around as much as they do and transferring here and there. You start to see more super teams being formed, and you see the Modern Days and the St. John Boscos of, people that are familiar with that in high school. That they're in Southern California, and they're generally 1 and 2 in the nation, or they're both two top 5 programs in the nation every year. And so Cajon is on that second tier of teams traditionally. And that, well, I mean, going back, it wasn't. But when Jayden got there, his game and his teammates, he had some tremendous teammates with him too. It wasn't a one-man show, but they have elevated Cajon into that second tier, into which, again, we're not competing with the Boscos and the Modern Days of the world that are in, the top 25 in the nation. But, we're able to sit there and compete with a lot of the best top programs in the area. And a lot of it is because of what Jayden did, Jayden and his teammates did during that time, that kids are now coming to Cajon because they want to sit there and play in the same place that Jayden did, and have hopefully some of the similar success. So we have benefited from having him as our quarterback. Granted, he's several years removed, but again, we still get, I think he's a huge responsibility of why the program at Cajon has been elevated into that tier level of excellence.
Oh,
Wow. That's a lot of information on the number 2 overall pick, Coach, and
the
we
legacy.
really, yeah, like that's wonderful to hear. We really, really appreciate you for joining us, Coach. And if there's anything that you want to plug, social media, anything, please feel free to do so now.
Yeah, I wish I was that savvy on those type of things. I really am not. I'm pretty basic as it is, and that's kind of my shtick, I guess. People, they know I'm a kind of a no frills guy with that stuff. So I wouldn't even know how to plug something or to plug what. I don't even know. I have no clue. I just, like I said, I like coaching football and working with these kids. So I'm just super excited to see what Jayden does at the next level. I'll be following along, and again, the Commanders, I think, it's kind of hard to say you get a steal at number 2, but I think they got a steal at number 2.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Well, we're
Okay.
happy to have him, Coach. Thank you again. And again, the quick little research. I'm pretty slim trimmed right now, but I noticed you had the beard. Keep rocking the beard, brother.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yep.
All
Salute.
right.
Thank you again
Yep.
so much.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it, guys.
Coach.
Thanks for having me. Yep.
Have a great evening.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Again, we want to thank Coach Nick Rogers for joining us on this wonderful, wonderful episode.
Thank you.
Giving us wonderful, wonderful insight. And Brad, what you think about the interview, man?
I mean, what a guy, I mean, he gave us everything, I mean, he certainly didn't come out and say like, "Hey, here's the secret trick play I ran against this team," but he gave us lots of little nuggets and insight into football in California, Jayden Daniels, his family, what it was like in terms of being able to coach Jayden Daniels, just the tiers of competition as far as California football goes, the impact Jayden Daniels had. We were just joking before we came back, or at least I was just joking. I often, because it was mentioned that he played high school football with Jayden Daniels' dad, and then the mom went to the high school as well, so it had that whole varsity blues kind of thing going. But I was just wondering if at any point, if he benched Jayden Daniels or yelled at him or anything, if the dad's like yelling from the stands, like, "All right, that's my boy," like,
You lunching, man. You lunching. But
Of course, probably not. Guy threw
no, that's
14,000 yards and then ran for like another 3,000 in high school. So I'm pretty
no,
sure,
that's crazy.
like, hey, watch my son go. And I don't think there was I don't think there was
Yeah.
a problem with anything.
I like how we talked about Daniel's control of the offense. That's something that seemed to follow him like at Arizona State and into LSU. And I just can't wait for him and Kingsbury to like connect with each other. It should be something pretty interesting to see them two work together. And again, like we don't know how all this is gonna work out, but my goodness, this high school his coach was given given them major props. Like he started a legacy down there for the most part. Elevate
Absolutely.
the school
Yeah.
from one division to another. Like that's some pretty powerful stuff. So again, thanks Coach Rogers for joining us. And I mean, bro, we can get right to the basketball talk if you want to, man. I think we gave everybody plenty of Commanders talk to chew on for the next week.
Yeah, for sure. Just again, really cool. Thank you again, Mr. Rogers. Thank you again, Nick Rogers, for coming on the show. Just had lots to say. Definitely cool to hear about the leadership. I mean, it took a lot of our questions away, when he was talking about the leadership and how his demeanor doesn't really change and that he's yeah, essentially like a humbled guy. Like, obviously, I'm sure in his own mind at some point, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad at anybody, whether it's Jordan or him or LeBron or, Muhammad Ali back in the day. If they're like, man, I'm the shit. Like, I'm the shit. Like, you know what I mean? But if you carry yourself in that right light, like, hey, yeah, like nobody's tripping because it's like you are the shit. So, really cool. Took all our questions away, but hardwood, it's a
So
little different, man.
it feels a lot different, bro. Like I don't even want to talk about series for series because I mean we get all that from everybody else. I just kind of want to like look into the future, so to speak. Right now, it's really difficult to find a juggernaut or a dominant team that you feel like is going to run away with the championship or a strong favorite, so to speak. And it's crazy that in the second round, we're going to have the Timberwolves and Nuggets go head to head with each other.
Yep,
Those two teams are they swept their opponents. Well, no, they didn't. The Lakers won the game. I forgot,
yep.
but they took them out in less than 5 games or less, and now they're facing each other. And some could say this could be a Western Conference Finals preview, but
It
bro,
is. It's the to me, it's the powerhouses of the Western Conference at the moment. Um,
but
not
I
to
can't
like
sleep on the Thunder
randomly,
though.
I don't mean to randomly like sidestep and just like, just totally trash on another team, but let's talk about the Phoenix Suns real quick. Like, where they like, they're in like their cash app is overdrawn, is basically what's going on here. And I didn't even know you could do that. So there's that. But I agree with you. I think this is one of those things where maybe like a March Madness where two number one seeds end up on the same side of the bracket and they play each other in the final four for the national championship spot. And it's like, or I mean, at any point in the tournament, but just ride with me. And anyway, those two teams, it's like you really wanted to see those two teams in the championship. Um, so I kind of feel that's where we're at as far as that goes. No disrespect to some of these teams in the East. I know Boston has a really solid squad, although I think they're going to be kind of hurting unless Porzingis is able to recover. And then we'll see how that goes, and what he'll be if and when he does recover. Uh, but other than Boston, I mean, I don't really see. I mean,
He
who's left?
missing the second round, bro.
Huh? What happened? What are you talking about?
Porzingis, he's missing the second round.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, let's say they make it past the second round, and then he starts to maybe try to come back. Whatever. Because again, my point was we don't know what he'll be, so I think that's why I kind of went with like the West Coast is, I would say Timberwolves or Nuggets, and then as far as the future goes, if Luca gets any kind of help in terms of like, I already like what they've done with PJ Washington and Gafford being added. I like those moves, not just for this playoff push, but just in general. Uh, but I think it's those three squads going forward. I like the team style the Pacers are playing. I just don't think they have enough like superstar quality. And it's hilarious that Rick Carlisle's team is a let's just try to score more points than the other team type of team instead of like let's
I
play
mean, when
defense.
you got Luca and Kyrie, it's
No, no,
like,
no. Carlisle's not the coach for Dallas.
oh yeah, that's right. I'm tripping. I'm
He's
going
the Indy
way
coach.
back.
He's the
I
Indy coach.
forgot.
By the way,
Kid is the kid is still in Dallas, right?
yes, Jason Kidd's
Yeah,
the Dallas head
I'm
coach.
tripping. My bad.
Rick Carlisle was the Dallas head coach, but then I guess he wasn't meshing well with Luca. Maybe I can't remember what it was, but it was something where like I still don't understand it. Um, anywho, he is now the Indiana Pacers head coach. Sorry, I had something in my eye. All the like different jokes and like puns, deer in headlights, all those kind of things. A pacer is a car for the Indy 500, laps, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I love all that. I think that's hilarious. Um, the Bucks, man, I feel bad because I was hoping this would be,
I don't.
good go round for Dame Lillard. Like that's really where I was at. But you got Lillard and Giannis are out, LeBron is out, Steph is out. Um, I'm trying to think. Well, Butler and the Heat, are they out? Or they're about to be
Yeah,
out?
they out.
They're out.
Yeah, they been out. They
Jo-
lost to the Celtics.
yeah, right. Joel Embiid, they're out.
Yup. Hey,
Man,
speaking of him, real quick, did you see a
Kevin Durant is
post,
out.
bruh? Did you see a post where somebody had like I forgot how much they bet. It couldn't have been more than $10. They had a $10 bet on a parlay, and they hit on everything except for Embiid scoring 40 points. And do you remember how much he scored last night? 39.
39. Yeah.
He lost out on 100K because Embiid didn't score 40. He scored 39. But yeah, that Sixers team, bro. I saw another thing that Embiid's the only player that's won the NBA MVP that's never been to a conference finals.
Oh wow.
So, and I ain't going front, bro. Josh Harris, the way that they've been running that Sixers team, it is kind of scaring me. It's kind of scaring me. I can't even front. Like, it's, I don't know. Like,
Him and the
they should
Fanatic
have won, like, based on,
to everybody.
huh?
Him and like the Fanatics guy and some other guy, they bought all the tickets. They were trying to keep New York
Yeah.
out. They were distributing them to everybody. Yes, they should.
Like, I ain't even talking about that. I'm talking about, like, the Sixers, they've been building for a minute, and they haven't even been to a conference finals yet. And it's like, woof, you got players, you had a coach. Like, what? I don't know. Like in the NBA, it's much easier to build a team. I feel like, or a competitive team, especially when you have a top 10 talent, top 5 player with Embiid. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And the East is with the East being so weak, bro. Like something should have happened to Philly by now, and
It's
they're out in the first round again.
they,
That's crazy.
Mike, they started off that game losing like 28-9 or something. Last night, like they were losing bad, and then Buddy Hield came in and started just draining threes and making plays, throwing himself all over. Maxey didn't really have that great a game at all.
Yeah, I know. I bet some
Prior to the
parlays on him.
he lit it up. So and it it really was a close game. So you really have to think what it could have been. And Tobias Harris with no points at all. That's really what was insane. Uh, so Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what the Pacers and Knicks series will look like, but are they playing each other?
Yeah, it's them too.
It's them two. Who's the Celtics playing then?
The winner of the Cavs and Magic, who is going to a game 7, we learned tonight. So that series probably won't start until Wednesday. Whoever the Celtics play probably won't start until Wednesday. And the Thunder, they'll face the winner of the Clippers Mavericks. And I believe right now the Mavericks are leading 15-20. So next week we'll let you know who won that game and who won game 1 of whoever the Thunder. Now that's going to be a fun series, regardless of who the Thunder have to play, the Mavs or the Clippers. That's going to be an interesting series, but
Totally
I
agree.
don't know. I don't know though. Like the West is so overpowered, man, and this is why I say we need to obliterate the conference alignment or whatever. Like, I don't care. Seed the teams 1 through 16 before the playoffs start. Forget this East-West stuff, man. It's 2024. Like, the Thunder would have had to play the Heat in the first round. And I know you probably like, oh, Oklahoma to Miami, that's a far travel or whatever. As if Minnesota to Phoenix is a cakewalk or a quick drive.
Yep.
Like, come on, man. Miss me with all that nonsense, man. The teams need to be seeded 1 through 16 in the NBA playoffs.
That might
Just the NBA playoffs.
see
It
that.
won't make sense in any other sport. Just the NBA playoffs need to be 1 through 16, man.
Yeah, but that I feel like honestly, no disrespect to the Heat. I know they were hit with the injury bug, but just in general, even when healthy, I kind of feel like that'd be a real favorable matchup for OKC. I just that's how I feel.
I mean, yeah, and just like the same could be said for the Celtics versus the Heat. It was a favorable matchup for the Celtics. I'm just saying, like, it prevents us from having these mediocre second rounds. Even though you could say it doesn't happen every season or every year or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that it's still possible. Like, if things were different, like, it'll be the Nuggets facing the Cavs or Magic in the second round. The Celtics would probably face the Clippers or Mavericks. I mean, Clippers or you know what I'm saying. Like, I just don't like the way how it's overpowered in the West. Like, if any of the teams in the West can make it to the finals in the East, any of the remaining teams, I'm sorry. Like, the Knicks could not beat the Thunder, Clippers, Mavericks, Timberwolves, or Nuggets in a 7-game series. And the Pacers aren't beating the Knicks in a 7-game series. And the Celtics, they're struggling against all 6 of the teams that's left in the West, bro. And you know the Cavs and Magic ain't beating none of them Bammers.
No.
So, like, that's all I'm saying. And I know I always complain about playoff realignment and stuff, but like, I want the best matchups. I want the best drama.
Sure.
And like, I don't like the way how the East and West is set up. Like, forget all that. But it'll never happen because people are so territorial.
Well, I think people, they might be a little bit more like myself, where you just kind of used to things being a certain way. So.
Forget that. Like, nah. Something I won't forget.
I wouldn't be opposed to change either. Just
Something
saying.
I won't forget about. And Oh, we'll talk about the Wizards next week. They have no coach, like no coach.
There's nothing.
And we were supposed to get into a little. Well, let's talk about it.
Talk about it.
Y'all have a problem with LeBron, man. On both sides of the fence, I feel like the haters and the lovers of LeBron have an issue. Like, you can't say he's getting coaches fired, especially when these coaches aren't really doing nothing after they stop coaching them, except for Coach Spo. That's it. But Coach Spo was always looked at as like a prodigy or whatever. And he's in Miami. We know they're going to cook. So
But
I'm not surprised about that. But the other coaches, like
okay,
Tyronn Lue, what
Mike,
has he done?
Mike, let me stop you right there. Well, I mean, he was the coach when they won the championship in Cleveland.
I
Which
said after.
okay, after all right, but still, have you noticed that other than Coach Spolstra and maybe to a degree Tyronn Lue, most of the coaches he gets are doormat types? Just playing devil's advocate, right? You're saying he gets these coaches fired, etc. What I'm saying is it's not like he's getting, Steve Kerr or Greg Popovich or someone like that fired, right? And I understand like maybe in a roundabout way that works more towards your argument. What I'm saying is he hasn't had any of those guys as his coach in the first place. When he was really young, it was Paul Silas, and then where we go from there? We went like you said, Spolster's
David Blatt.
David Blatt. Who was the Suns head coach? That was his coach in LA for a time. I think maybe even in Cleveland
Oh,
too.
Monty Williams.
No. The Suns' current head coach.
Oh, Frank Vogel.
Vogel was I believe the Cavs coach for a time, at least.
Lakers. I think they won the title together. Frank Vogel won the title with the Lakers, I think.
Okay, well there you go. I knew there was something there, but either way, most of the guys LeBron gets, I feel like it's like this, right? LeBron gets these guys who can coach and are up and coming guys sometimes, or maybe guys that are due for an opportunity, but they're given the opportunity knowing that LeBron's really going to be the one making the choices and the decisions. I know that's like a little bit of a reach. I'm just throwing that out there.
I mean, I get it, but I don't know. Like it's a lot that comes with him, and I don't even know why I even wanted to talk about him because,
He's the
like,
leading scorer. He's putting up numbers that people his age haven't put up. Granted, there's
yeah,
advances in medicine and things like that. And then there's a lot of talk, with the play-in thing and the bubble title, and here's what it amounts to, right? LeBron has been, for the most part, as advertised. There's a lot of pressure on him to be as great as he is. And there's a lot of us who are quote unquote objective and just, critical in general. But when you think about it, sometimes it kind of can be borderline hate, and I'll throw myself in the mix just as much as anybody. I'm guilty of it. But the man is extremely charitable. Like I said, he's been in this position for a long time and he's delivered with all this pressure. But he's not Jordan and nobody else is, and that's okay. And I think that's what a lot of this is. I think obviously the announcement with the super team, yeah, I could go on and on. And I think it's just him trying to please everybody. And he's now where like it's like, bro, you don't gotta prove nothing to nobody. You've got titles, you've got all these accolades and money, and you're more charitable than Jordan or Ronaldo or anybody else that I feel like it's playing today or has been playing and or is on his level. So, whatever. Right? If he can play with his kid, good on him. I think that'll be another thing people will knock him for, to be honest. but yeah,
I forgot what I was listening to. Somebody was like, Bronny should be the next head coach. That joint took me out. I was like, man, that's crazy.
it sounds like
But
some sort of Disney type of movie. Like, what are we doing?
what are we doing? But
Of
yeah,
course, people watch
and
too, right? Like that would be like
huh?
Ted Leonsis would be crazy enough to do it because he's like, you know what?
Why not?
He's gonna be like, those assholes didn't want to pay for the upgrades to my stadium, and they didn't want to metro and whatever else. And I was trying to move to Delray, so I'm hiring some kid as my coach. I'm bringing LeBron James in,
You lunch him, bro. So
like a brown.
yeah, when it comes to him, you just I don't know. Like it just might be time for him to wrap it up because there's really nothing else he can accomplish anymore, and like whatever he does is going to get scrutinized to the unthinked degree, and like if I were him, I would just call it a wrap. There's nothing he could do for his legacy. I feel like, I mean, even if he does win another title or three, that might help. But with the way the West
3.
looking,
You think he's got 3 more years left?
yeah, like if he humbles himself
No,
and
and
comes off the bench, he could play for like another 5 years.
off the bench.
Yeah, like I ain't like he's out. Like you said,
Well, if he's coming off the bench, what's Bronny doing then? Because the idea was that like he would be starting and Bronny would come off the bench.
no. I'm just saying, like
And
in general, like he has more than 3 years of basketball left. What is he? 30. He's almost 40. He'll be 40 at the end of the year. The literal year. And he just averaged 26, 8, and 26, 7, and 8. Like, he could still play in the NBA if he came off the bench and he could probably give you 20 minutes a game and give you like 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists or something like that. Like LeBron definitely has some years left in him. And yeah, I think if he wanted to come off the bench and continue to play, the team would be foolish to not have to turn down a 44-year-old LeBron coming off your bench. I feel like that would be ridiculous. And yeah, I just want to end the show talking about the Nationals. We are a DC sports show. Eddie's rocking the hoodie. They took down the Blue Jays today,
they did.
9-3. I even had my nephew Trey talking about sending a text message talking about the Nats kind of like cooking, which is nice for a 13-year-old to say about a baseball team, I guess. They're 500 right now. Winners of 6 of their last. 6 of their last 7 or 8, I believe. Yeah,
Those are
they
numbers.
they beat the brakes off the Marlins last weekend. Got
Yeah.
them out of there with a 4-game sweep. I believe the Rangers then got us out of there 2 out of 3 games. And we're starting a new series with the Blue Jays. And right now we are up 1-0 in that series. So, my brother, how are we feeling about the Nationals? Can we sneak in the playoffs this year? We're only a half game back in the wild card. I know it's only been a month, but hey.
So let's just go with exceeding expectations. You know, Josiah Gray on injured reserve. Who knows what's going to happen with the elbow injury, Tommy John, potentially, hopefully not. Um, you got a bunch of young guys performing well. CJ Abrams is balling. You got some guys coming up from the minors. Mitchell Parker, he didn't have a great game against the Texans, but for a time he had pitched a good number of innings without even giving up a hit, let alone a run. Uh, yeah, I mean, they're playing great. Definitely hats off to Davey Martinez for what he's doing. You got a number of guys with like at least 2 to 3 stolen bases on the season, and it's early. I mean, we're talking like at least maybe like 7 to maybe 10 guys with that amount. So we're playing some small ball. CJ Abrams is playing just great. And I believe he's only like 20 years old, something like that. I mean, he's extremely young, and he's just knocking balls out of the park, getting extra base hits, just balling. And you know, you factor in once we get some of these other young guys coming up, you know, like a Cade Cavalier. I don't know why his name's escaping me right now, but Cruz, our outfielder in the minors. You know, once these guys start coming up, it's really looking like, you know, I mean, we're a few years out, but it's looking like we could have a similar situation with what we did with the Strasburg and Rendon and et cetera. So there's promise. It's going to take time. You know, obviously we are going to need some luck, you know, as far as guys staying healthy, and then, you know, other, you know, everybody's development staying on track, or maybe even, you know, getting ahead of projection. So, but it's good, man. I mean, it's that time of year. It's early. We're competing. You know, like you mentioned, the sweep with the Marlins. It was really cool because they had a game where they just beat the brakes off them, then in another game where it was like they were kind of getting the brakes beat off them, and then they started coming back, and it was just a really high scoring game. Um, so that's exciting, and then, you know, being in the same division, so getting some wins there. Yeah, man. I mean, it, I'm excited. Actually, Harper and I are going. My daughter Harper, we're going to the Nats game tomorrow. Hopefully, it doesn't get rained out. May the 4th, Star Wars, and all that. Kyle Finnegan bobblehead giveaway. So I'm always down for that. And mostly looking forward to just enjoying Nats Park and the game again, hopefully, with my daughter. And gonna eat some ice cream out of those little plastic helmets, man, because that's when it tastes the best.
I've never eaten ice cream out of a helmet before. Next time I go to a game, I gotta try it.
It's a perfect size helmet because it's good enough that you get a good amount of ice cream because they stack it up. You know, they do the barrel roll sort of method where like they start from the bottom and they work their way up. I'm doing that sort of finger pointed down twirling method for those of you who are only going to be listening. And anywho, and then it sort of stacks up, and you actually get a decent amount of soft serve, and it's just fantastic. It's just it just, yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, Certainly, it'd be great. Nats get a win. That'd be amazing. That'd be legitness.
All right. Well, we are about to bounce up out of here. Once again, we want to thank Coach Nick Rogers of the Cajon Cowboys for joining us. Very, very insightful. Very, very. I could tell that was a humble man. Like, I could tell Coach Rogers is a humble man because he made sure to make sure that Daniels was getting all the attention and his answers. And yeah, it really got me more excited to see him play, and should be pretty interesting couple of years, you think, bro?
Yeah, for sure. Super blessed to have him on and just be so open and candid. Like I mentioned earlier, just lots of like little nuggets and info, not just about Jayden, but about context as far as the environment he came from and everything. And certainly a very humble man. Seemed like he really just kind of appreciates being able to do something that he enjoyed doing as a kid. And yeah, I mean, I just marvel at, you know, when I was younger, like the idea that I would be able to talk to someone like that. Granted, he's just a high school football coach, and I don't mean to say that in a demeaning way either, but the idea that we could reach out and talk to somebody like that who's certainly on like a higher level than I am as far as status goes, right? And just kind of chat it up. Uh, Coolest thing ever. Seriously. And that goes
Yeah,
for
definitely.
anybody, like when we can just have somebody on and they're a coach or, player or they're whatever. It For me, it's just it's the tops, you know?
Yeah, we'll probably have more guests. So not probably, definitely have more guests.
Fingers
And
crossed.
until then, y'all have a good week. We'll holler at y'all next weekend. And once again, the Sport and Combos with Eddie and Mike, aka Eddie and Mike the podcast. And we'll holler at y'all, man. Next week. Thanks.
Our convos are sporting. I want to once again congratulate Reggie Bush on getting his Heisman back, as it should be. Shout out to Johnny Manziel for making such a fuss about this. And shout out to the NCAA for finally doing something right. Eddie and Mike, salute. We appreciate you.